Chiama Prestaline. The world is changed. Much that once was is lost, for none now live who remember it.
You must understand. The ring is my burden.
Kevin, you can't stop Traveler's Tales. Like, this is the second goddamn Lego game that we've had this year, and it kind of
that's true. Yeah,
we're in the midst of these Assassin's Creed 3 and Black Ops 2 and Halo 4. Traveler's Tales just didn't give a fuck. They're just like, here it is. There's another Lego game. Hope you were ready.
Yeah, I don't think there were too many lines going around GameStop for the new Lego game. At midnight or anything?
Wouldn't it be the greatest thing in the world if you found out that Lego Lord of the Rings broke all the sales figures and was like the highest sales launch of all time?
Sleeper hit of the year. That's and right. Everything.
Oh, but unfortunately that's not the case. Welcome everybody to the Loading Bar. We're talking about Lego Lord of the Rings, the video game. And this is the latest by Traveler's Tales, who I am constantly getting confused with Telltale. I wish they would just merge and become Travelers Telltales or whatever. But yeah, this is Lego Lord of the Rings, and hey, I got news for you guys. This is one of them Lego games.
Yeah. That's it exactly. That's how I felt about it when I first started playing. I was like, oh, it's a Lego game, but it's the last one we played was the Batman one, which I had the Star Wars one as well, that we didn't really review, but I had because people were like, it's Star Wars and you got to get it. And I got it and everything, and I still own it. But this game opens up very cinematically, which sort of different than the other ones I played.
Yeah, I mean, well, for anybody who hasn't played one of these games, essentially what they've done here is they've taken all three of the Lord of the Rings movies, Fellowship and Two Towers and Return of the King, and they've kind of smooshed them all together. They've compacted the whole storyline, the whole world in this one game. Is all kind of half made out of Legos. It's still, I don't know what it is about me. I've got some kind of OCD. I need to go see a psychiatrist or whatever, but like, there's still something that really bugs me about the fact that there's like regular trees and then there's Lego trees and they're standing right next to each other and nobody's pointing at these things going, what the fuck, man? Like if I walked out, I was like, there's my car, there's my neighbor's car. Is that a Lego car? Huh. I guess so. Whatever. But this follows Lord of the Rings pretty shot for shot from the very beginning of the original downfall of Sauron all the way to the end and throwing the ring in and everything in between. And in fact, it's kind of a weird thing. Like every time you hit the end of a movie, it kind of parodies the scene at the end of the movie, and right. Then it runs like credit sequence. Like the game is over. The first time I was like, oh, okay, I thought this was the whole thing, and then I hit the button and it was like, oh, no, you're right back in the game. Like, oh, okay. They're taking the Ashura's Wrath route. That's pretty ballsy of you, but all right.
But it has that whole Kate Blanchett doing the whole like Lord of the Rings intro in the beginning and walking you through like the big battle with Sauron in the beginning. Mm-hmm. And it's bizarre to me. I mean, it's just bizarre. I don't know how to explain it, but like the other ones, I just had like this, there was like almost immediate interaction in the game. And here it was kind of like they were just laying it all out and bit by bit. Like you were kind of in the movie and everything, but with Lego characters, it has all that like wink, wink, nod, nod. Just different, a little bit different feel to this one because it has sort of like it switches things up, like you're not like the Batman one. You're sort of you were constantly in. I would say this about the Star Wars one too. You were constantly in sort of the same sort of overhead, look down, top down view while you're hopping around and trying to climb on things, and that's all here. But then they also switch it over to those 2D moments. I guess you would call them 2D, where you're sort of sneaking around side to side almost.
Oh, yeah. There's a few of those in the beginning. There's also a lot of times when Frodo puts on the ring, it zooms in and everything's all wavy around it and stuff like that. But I think that what you're talking about, and one of the biggest, I'm going to say this is a complaint of mine, but it's something that everybody who plays this is going to have to kind of take individually, is that for this particular game, like in the last game in DC, Lego Batman 2, DC Superheroes, there was dialogue. There's total dialogue. In this game, there is also dialogue, except that all of the dialogue is lifted from the movies. And I feel like that's a problem because the people, the voice cast, or the actors in the movies, they weren't playing this for laughs. They were playing the whole thing seriously.
Right.
So what you end up with is the people who were the actors of Lord of the Rings who all did, in my opinion, a really good job in their roles. These really serious dialogue choices that they've got shoehorned on top of this weird humor that's going on. Like they've got, you'll be like in the beginning when you were talking about with Kate Blanchett is setting up the rings. She's like 9 rings for for the Kingdom of Man, and you see all the Kingdom of Man guys standing there like they are in the movie, and then one of them goes whoop de doo, and he drops his ring and he's picking it back up. The guy behind him's like, oh yeah,
that just seemed really awkward and out of place.
Yeah, and especially, and this may very well just be the fact that I am a giant nerd. Like Kevin, I don't know how many times you watch Lord of the Rings, but in my family we watch Lord of the Rings pretty consistently. Like it's one of the few movies that my family all makes a big deal about going to the theater together to go see, and we've watched all the special features on the DVDs and stuff. So I'm pretty familiar with the way that those scenes rolled out in the dialogue, and you could hear. This is another thing that was kind of weird, is that it seemed like they took the. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, Kevin, because it really to me seemed like this was the case, but it seemed like they took the audio, like it wasn't like they got in touch with Peter Jackson and got him to send them the masters or anything. Like they were using the audio with all the background mixing and stuff into it. So sometimes you would like the quality of the vocals would change dramatically because in one case, it was a guy and he was talking and there wasn't a lot else going on. And then, like, the next line that he was talking, but there was all this background noise in there as well. And
right.
So it ended up just kind of taking me out of it a little bit. That, and I was reading the Wikipedia article on this before we started, and it says that Chandler's Tales said, like, hey, we're going to go ahead and tone down a lot of that slapstick humor that you've seen in a lot of the other Lego titles. And I'm like, why, dude? That was the best part. Was seeing stormtroopers doing dumb Lego stuff, or seeing Jack Sparrow do dumb Lego stuff, or Batman, or whatever. I could definitely see where, if you're a big fan of Lord of the Rings, there's a good possibility that stuff may actually have the opposite of the intended effect by taking you out of the game. So where you're sitting there going, wait, what the fuck? But no, all right. To me, to where there's kind of an argument to be made that this might have done better if it was just silent, like a lot of the other games were.
Yeah, the actual gameplay too in this one was, and you could tell me if there's parts in that later on, because I'll admit I didn't play all the way to the end of the game, but I didn't find a lot of it like where I was assembling things with the Legos. It was mostly smashing and picking them up, and then you have all of these options where you can dig and you can light a fire or plant a flower or something, which just seems sort of non-Lego related. Like I can light some Legos on fire if they're in a certain like pile or something. And I'm not sure what I don't know. It sort of just irritated me in a way because I just didn't understand what the purpose of these exercises were. Like I don't get it. Like I felt like the other system just seemed better. This one almost seemed a bit, I don't know, cumbersome or odd or awkward. I mean, it would just tell you all the time when to do something, so you would just do it, and then, I don't know, why have the selection? What, am I going to not pick the shovel over the shovel thing and light a fire instead? No, I mean, I don't know. It was just there's some weird design decisions in this game.
Well, it's strange because in the actual the game is segmented into two pieces. There is the open world of Middle Earth that you could basically just wander around at random. And there are people there who will give you quests that you have to go out and complete. And a lot of times they will give you crafting materials, mithril bricks that you can use to build different stuff that allows you to get access to other areas later on in the game.
And you can ride the sheep around. I rode the sheep all over the place.
Yep.
Ran into things all like for hours because that was fun for me.
But then there's the actual missions. And the first time that you go through these missions, I mean, 100% of the time when you go through these missions, you're not going to have like the abilities or the characters that you need in order to get everything out of this mission. Generally, because since the missions are following the story of the plot of Lord of the Rings, they constrain you to only having the members that were actually there in that scene in the movie or in the book. But later on, you can go back, you can kind of free play in those. You could bring back in unlocked characters. You can get access to more. I mean, once again, like all Lego games, this is a collector's nightmare or an OCD person's nightmare because every level has like a certain number of bits you need to get and a certain number of chests, and then there's some hidden items, and then there's this thing, and then there's some people, and so the game is really set up, and this is like all the Lego games, to encourage you to go back and play it over and over again, but the thing is that early on in the game, they give you a lot of these objectives, they give you quests, or they'll tell you how to do stuff, and it doesn't become very clear until you've really kind of screwed around with the game systems until later in the game exactly why. Like the whole lighting a fire or, planting a thing, I mean, most of that's just to get access to bricks or whatever.
Right.
But then later on, it's kind of an interesting system. You use the mithril bricks that you picked up to craft items, and you can use those items to get around character-specific actions, like opening a door that requires a strong person, or blowing up these boulders to get access to the sub-area, or double jumping, or things like that.
But you always have that extra person there, right? I mean, it's like, when are you in the scenario where you're not going to, I mean, I guess it's good. It provides you the ability not to have to swap them and, get the other guy up there or whatever it is, but I don't know why you would ever... I don't want to be that critical about a kid's game at the same time. My coworker had the Batman game, gave it to his son who was about 5 years old, and he got 100% completion on everything. Would have done you proud, Jeff.
Excellent.
Got every hidden character and every bonus, everything, 100%.
Yeah.
So I know that these games kids love them. So I guess I shouldn't be that critical. Just as an adult, I some of these things I'm bewildered by.
Well, the big thing, I mean, the big thing for the open world stuff is that depending on what chapter you are in the game, they limit what characters you're able to have. So if you need a character that has, say, a rope, you don't get a rope until after the end of Fellowship of the Ring, so you can go back and finally do some of the stuff that has those ropes. Or
right.
Conversely, if you beat the entire game, it'll let you back into the map, and you can use any of the characters that you've unlocked over the course of the game in order to get stuff. Because there's all kinds of shit in here that's specific to one character.
Right. Well, that's true. Right. I mean, even at the very, very beginning, there's things where I was just trying to destroy them, and I'm like, why can't I do anything with this? And I realized that this would be something that I would revisit.
Yep. Yeah, and other than that, I mean, I don't know. Kevin, I don't even know what else. I'm trying to think. I've tried to think as a person who's never played a Lego game before to try to see what would you need to know.
I mean, it's mostly just like a platform game, like any standard platform game, except you run around with a party of people usually.
Yeah. Each
one having a different skill set that they can do different things with. And, your objective is just basically to complete whatever the mission is, but most of the time it's pretty linear. Mm-hmm. And it follows along with the theme of the film. So if you're hiding from the riders, then that's what you do. And, if you're, in combat in, I can't remember any of these places, Jeff, you'll have to help me. But if you're, fighting in one of those places, then, that's what you do. And you could you switch around different characters. And there's like a whole character, I don't know what you want to call that, a tree or a grid or whatever, where as you play the game, it just sort of unlocks all of the people that you can play as.
Yeah, you can find some of them in the world to pay and unlock with the number of bits that you pick up, and then there's some that unlock as you do story progression. There's an assload of video games or mini games in there as well. Like you take your sheep and you can race around these little checkpoints or
yay.
But actually, the one thing that I will say is that I really felt like, in spite of my problems with the dialogue and stuff, the way that they took all of the poignant parts of the Lord of the Rings series and made them, each one of those, into a separate level was, I thought, really well done. Because some of the levels are about combat, and some of them are about traversal, and some of them are about, picking up the small characters and walking them around the snow, or throwing this character at this thing so that they can break down this wall or whatever. And they do a really good job of taking the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy and squishing it together and turning on the fast forward button to just be like, go. I mean, I remember I got out of Helm's Deep and I turned around. Like, I literally walked down the little thing at the front of Helm's Deep and looked to my left, and about 100 steps away was Saruman's tower. It was like it was like a theme park version of Lord of the Rings, because everything was so goddamn close to each other, because you could just run between them on foot, and they don't want people to be running for, unlike the movies, they don't want people to be walking and walking and walking and walking and walking for days on end. There's also quick travel, so you can get quickly in between stuff. The game is pretty easy going about. You go up to these statues and it'll show you where everything is. And you may not be able to get there, but you know that there's a thing over there that you need to get to. So yeah, I mean, it's got the same split screen co-op where it splits if you get too far away, and it hooks together when you're close up, and it's fun to play with another person.
Right.
Other than that, man, just some Lego shit. So if you hate Lego games, don't buy this. And if you like them, totally get it.
Yeah, and if you like Lord of the Rings, I mean, that's maybe one of the questions, too, is that have you let your 5-year-old watch Lord of the Rings? Because it might be too adult for them or something, too scary, then in which case they may not have any idea what this game's even about. And,
actually, I'm gonna say right now that I make the argument that they have toned all this stuff down so much that even what in our particular day and age is kind of, at least to me, considered the mild violence of Lord of the Rings. I mean, Lord of the Rings isn't a slasher movie or anything. It is violent, but okay, so in Lord of the Rings, at the end of, just before anybody gets in the comments to be bitchy about this, I consider Lord of the Rings to be something you could spoil the shit out of. If you hadn't seen Lord of the Rings yet, that's on you, buddy, not me. But there's a part in Lord of the Rings at the end of Fellowship of the Ring where Sean Bean's character is getting shot with all these arrows, and the arrows are all sticking in him. In the game, the orc that's shooting him is shooting him with arrows tipped with a banana, and that banana sticks in him, and he goes, he eventually falls down a little Lego death. But there's places in the early game where the hobbits all go to this bar and get drinks, and in here they've got glasses full of chicken. There's just all these little chicken legs in the glass instead of booze. So,
well, right. I'm not saying that the game is that way. I'm just saying if your kid hasn't seen Lord of the Rings because you haven't let them watch it because it's too adult, then maybe they won't get this game. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, other than that, I mean, I think, like I said, the main drawback here is going to be the vocal stuff, and if you you maybe watch a YouTube video or two and see if you can get over that. But other than that, this is an incredibly serviceable Lord of the Rings Lego game. It is $50. I think that's a little much for this sort of game, so I'm going to give it a very high bargain bin, because I think that this game is totally worth $30, but maybe not a full 50. Unless you're a big fan of Lego Lord of the Rings, you need every Lord of the Rings thing ever, in which case, totally go buy this right away.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat, except that I would say that, if you're like that friend of mine whose kid played the Batman one all the way to the end, and you have a good value, that it's totally worth full price. I mean, the kid spent a couple of months on just playing that one game over and over again. At the same time, if you're just looking to put something in your nephew's stocking at Christmas time or something, maybe waiting for this one to go on sale. There's definitely there's better choices. I personally think that the Batman 2 is the better game between these two, but there's certainly nothing wrong with this one overall.
Okay, well, that's Lord of the Rings, folks. And I don't know, Kevin, you want to make some conjecture about what movie franchise is going to be next for Lord of the Rings, or for the Lego guys for Traveler's Tales? I got my money on Lego The Matrix. What do you think? I see a bunch of slow-mo Lego guys going.
Was James Bond or something?
Yeah.
I just want to quickly say that when I was a kid, the '70s Lord of the Rings, with the Smeagol or whatever he was, scared the crap out of me. I was crying, and I was totally asking for my dad because I was frightened to death of that. So don't underestimate the fear that the game or the movies can instill.
So, Lego Kevin's Nightmares. That's the next game from Traveler's Tales.
There you go.
Gandalf! You shall not pass! They have a cave troll.